extra credit for real-world sinusoidal patterns, though. I want to try to find as many as I can. We need real-world sinusoidal patterns that we haven't discussed in class. You need to turn off your laptop, too, please. Laptop. All right, so I don't even know. Like, see, we've discussed menstrual cycle. We've discussed circadian rhythm. Let's see what else. We discussed that there's a yearly pattern of sexual behavior, a monthly pattern of sexual behavior. Now, relationship breakups. I didn't actually expect this one. I was also excited when I saw it. Any other that y'all might think of that would be a sinusoidal pattern?
Just coffee drinking throughout the day.
Maybe.
He peaks in the morning. That's example.
I don't know. I don't know if that's, I mean, that may be yours, but I don't know if in the aggregate we're going to see that. It's going to pick up. Yeah, I was actually. Is anybody surprised at this pattern of data?
No.
Everybody does it. They break up during spring break or either the
Exactly
summertime.
my life.
They get together in the winter cuddling season. They break up.
Cuddling season?
Yes,
Yeah, it's called cuddling season.
Really?
No, yeah, that's
Yes.
really what they call it.
Now,
Okay, how many people? Okay, wait a second. What's cuddling season? Just winter?
It's like the winter time. It's called cuddling.
It's like
Everybody
fall
wants to
to,
warm
like-
up. And
Well, I know people want to cuddle, but
Yeah,
I'm more of a year-round cuddler.
cuffing season.
No, you can't cuddle in the summer. Are you serious?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, you can.
People don't want to be close in the summer. You're like, it's too hot. You want to be free, naked,
That's perfect on the cuddle.
bikinis.
And for you, naked means not cuddling?
I'm just telling you what.
I know. I have never heard winter called cuddling season.
Yeah, people want to cuddle with your maid and
That makes sense.
warm
Yeah,
up,
it's
watch a
supposed to be like a more
movie.
romantic time of year.
Yes, it's more romantic.
I'm a year-round cuddler.
Though we would all like to be, not a lot of people are, surprisingly.
You're not a year-round cuddler?
I am personally.
I'm not.
I don't see the summer, Christmas. I don't care what time of the year it is. I will.
I'll cuddle right now.
Right.
It's technically winter right now, so. Huh, you know what, if you can find data on that cuddling is if you can map the plot, amount of time people spend cuddling, and if you can find it's a sinusoidal pattern. Yeah.
Any explanation for the April Fool's Day spike?
I don't know.
Maybe people just
No,
don't
I
know
didn't
what
see
word
any
they're
explanation
using.
for it. The reason this came up is I'm one of UAB's media experts, and like everyone else gets the serious ones. It's like, will this prevent heart attacks? Will this help your kid live? I get do people break up around Valentine's? That's what I get. Why do people watch football? That's what they interview me and put me on the news for. Let's see what other ones I've gotten. Should you write love letters, or like actual love letters, or send sweet text messages? They interviewed me for that. I'm like,
I'm not talking about that,
I know, it's like, really? I get the hard-hitting news stories, you know?
but they just think you're fun.
But I know, they'll go, we think this would fit your personality. So I did research to find out if it was actually true, and I was like, I don't think that's actually true, but she didn't want to hear that. So I just went, you know what, screw it, it's not like anybody's going to die, you know? If I'm like, yes, people break up around Valentine's. Anyway. Okay, so cuddling, maybe.
Usually people break up after Valentine's then rather than on Valentine's.
I will tell you, the research that actually exists, there's one paper that's been published. This is actually just some person plotted. They looked at Facebook data and when people changed their relationship statuses. The only paper that I could find that was actually published research data was not very good. What they did is they looked at before and after Valentine's and then 4 other events through the year and found that people broke up after Valentine's. But that was the only one containing a holiday. So I'm thinking it's a holiday effect. Like, that would help explain Christmas, and so forth. Like, I think, what about birthdays? Like, if I know my birthday's coming up, I'm like, I'm not breaking up with you. Like, I even won't break up with you if it's your birthday coming up. I don't know, I feel like that's mean. Okay, so, all right, I'll open extra credit for any sinusoidal patterns. It'd be great. I'm going to be like a sinusoidal pattern expert. Maybe they'll interview me for that. This is some other good thing this week. I'm actually going to be an expert witness. Some guy might, so it's really, I'm really kind of nervous about that, though.
Can you talk about it?
Yeah, it's just, there's a robbery case. And there's problems with the eyewitness testimony, and that's my area of expertise. And so I'm really nervous though. I'm like, I mean, if I mess up the Valentine's Day thing, no one dies or goes to jail, you know. But that happened yesterday too. I was like, okay, that's sort of very weird. Can we review for this guy might go to jail? Oh, and Valentine's. I'm like, let's see. I think they interviewed me. Oh, they interviewed me on how to get your kid to like Santa Claus. No, you'll have to understand.
They
That,
get bored and just think of these things. You know what? Let's ask you. Let's just go to you and see what you think.
a lot of kids are scared of Santa Claus.
He brings him free stuff.
But he's also a celebrity in a kid's world. Imagine like your celebrity was you know, if I said, oh, here's whoever, you know. But no, you have to understand the list of things that they interview me for. Okay, no, I don't watch football. Fox thinks I'm a football expert. This is true. I don't have any kids. They interview me on how to raise your kids. I'm not dating anyone. Alrighty.
You don't watch football?
No.
Every man watch football.
Well, I am really sorry.
You
I would rather be cuddling.
cuddling.
I mean, I know how it's played, but I've never said to someone, "Hey, let's go watch the game."
You're not gonna watch football?
I've watched football before.
I mean,
No, you don't watch
gonna watch
football
football.
Sunday.
Yes, because there will be beer.
Okay. You're not gonna watch for the game. But
Yeah, I'm gonna go up to my neighbor's house. We're gonna cut some cigars and drink some beers, and
For the 49ers.
they're playing. I don't even know who's in the Super Bowl.
Oh my god.
Really? See, you can just make up a team name. Oh yeah, the 43ers. They're doing it.
That definitely deserves a high five.
I'm gonna be working.
Alrighty, let's get started on today. We're going to look at culture. We're going to start looking at, now we're moving into your textbook. We're looking at culture as an organizing force. And so what I want to start with this wonderful quote by one of my favorite historians, a man named Herodotus. He wrote a history of the Greek and Persian wars, and the first of the Greek and Persian wars, I should technically say. And there's a scene in the book where Herodotus writes, if one were to order all mankind to choose the best set of rules in the world, each group would, after due consideration, this will be online, I have to write down all the quote, choose its own customs. Each group regards its own as being the best. He says there's plenty of support for this idea. So there's plenty of support for the idea that this opinion of one's own customs is universal, but I'll give you one instance. And I love the instance he picks. He writes, during Darius' reign, Darius was one of the Persian rulers. During Darius' reign, he invited some Greeks who were present to a conference and asked them how much money it would take for them to be prepared to eat the corpses of their fathers. Right? We wouldn't do this for any amount of money. Well, then Herodotus writes, Darius summoned some members of an Indian tribe who eat their parents and asked them in the presence of the Greeks how much money it would take for them to be willing to cremate their fathers. Because the Greeks cremated. What they would do is they would put you on a big funeral pyre and cremate you, and they cried out in horror. They were like, we would never do these kinds of things. Such practices have become enshrined as custom just as they are. And I think Pindar was right when he said, custom is king of all. If there is a way to summarize the next set of lectures, it's going to be custom is king of all. Every culture has rules, and when we are raised in a culture, we adopt that culture's rules, so much so that they just seem normal. So before we start looking at specifics in each culture, which is really going to take the second and third portions of this course, I really want to discuss what culture does generally, and y'all will be really happy because now we're finally up to your textbook. You're not happy about that? No. You're like, I'm right in the camera lane. Let me look excited. Get some jazz fingers. All right. Looking at a globe, we might think that we're used to seeing the globe divided up into nations or nation states. And that might seem the logical way to divide people. We might describe them as Russians, or describe them as Australians, or Chinese, or Brazilian. But that's actually not the way that most social scientists think of groups of people. instead of this, we go, well, nation states are relatively new. Has anyone taken a history class and know when we really get the idea of a nation state? There's one person who usually gets mentioned in this regard. Napoleon. Typically 18th century France, or sorry, early 19th century France. People tend to go, that's when you really get this idea of the nation, like we think of the nation. And also, many of the nations, or many of the boundaries are quite arbitrary. Like you might know that over here in Sudan, it was one country at one time. It's now actually two countries because the two halves differ dramatically in other aspects. And so like we can't even get along. So nations isn't really the level we're going to do. If you've taken any anthropology or sociology, what do we tend to group people by? This will start at today's lecture. Something is king of all. Culture. We're gonna actually, for social scientists, we tend to think of societies or cultures. So we're going to talk a lot about culture. So we might describe Southern culture, right? We might describe Northern culture in our country. So I'm going to describe trends in cultures. And when you're born into a particular culture, and your culture starts immediately channeling you down certain paths. And we know one of the ways it does this right off the bat. You pop out of your mother's womb, your culture goes boy or girl. So we're going to spend some time in this class going, how does our culture make you into a girl? Or does it make you into a girl? Is it biology? Is biology or culture? That's what we're going to start looking at in this. To give a definition of culture, this is sort of the classic one by E.B. Tyler. And he writes, culture, taken in its broad ethnographic sense, is that complex whole. So I love this right off the bat. He's like, you know what? I'm just going to give you a broad definition. Complex whole, which includes knowledge. So each culture is going to have knowledge that it's going to spend time teaching its youth, right? So we make you go to 12 years of school to teach you a certain bits of knowledge, right? We're like, it's important that you learn math, which y'all didn't learn. It's important that you learn how to read. It's important that you learn writing. Belief. There are certain beliefs that every culture has. Now, every culture doesn't share the same beliefs, but every culture has beliefs. Like, for example, a belief in our culture is that everyone is equal. Right? That's a belief in our culture. Or another belief in our culture would be that everyone can pull themselves up by their bootstraps. Right? That's our culture's belief. Art. We have art part of our culture. So it might be the Hot 100. It might be Coltrane or Davis. In the last hour, I was trying to talk about jazz, and class looked at me like, who are these people? Made me sad. Morals. Each culture has different morals it tries to teach, laws, customs, and so forth. It's all the things that you acquire by being the member of a particular group. Right? And we can make smaller cultures if we want. Right? American culture can be divided into various different cultures that all have knowledges, beliefs, morals, customs, and so forth. So if we want to think about